All right. So, Stacy, what are you learning right now? What are you trying to pick up and do better today, this week?
This week, I have stepped back in to tickling the ivories. I am learning piano again for the 860-second time. I downloaded the app and am really allowing myself to be a beginner again. It's something that I actually taught myself when I was a kid, and now I'm actually having somebody teach me. So that's one of them, and learning how to sing.
Mm. Well, we won't ask you to give us your best rendition of Wheels on the Bus today, but that I will be curious to see when you do get more practiced, at least more confident in your abilities, what notes we can belt out on the podcast without
Mm.
breaking the microphone.
That'll be interesting. I'll tell you how the piano is a little bit easier because I have some familiarity with it, but I do find myself getting mad at my fingers. Like E really wants to hit F all the
Yeah.
time. I'm like, not finger 5, finger 3, finger 3. Do what you're supposed to do, finger 3. That is an E. That is not an F. Stop. Uh, and then the opposite, I've never really trained my left hand to read music that way. And the fingers are opposite. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's
So one
very
one is the pointer finger on both sides.
no thumb.
So
Thumb is
so okay, but what I'm saying is it's consistent for both hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right?
I think so.
Got it.
I think so. I'm not confident. It literally, don't quote me on this. If you're a piano teacher, you're mortified right now that you were drawn to this podcast. And she's like, she's got it all wrong. I do. And I'm okay for it to be completely messy. But what my vision was in wanting and to learn it was to be able to sing and play at the same time. And so that not only takes coordination, but getting out of your own way and trusting a cadence and having pitch and things I never really worked on before. I'm just like, hey, let's throw that on there and see if it sticks. Let's just go with it.
Hey,
Let's see what
that's
happens.
you got to have some raw material to be able to mold it to something that you want to do, like something that you want to actually resemble a presentable work of art, right?
Well, and as you guys get to know me on this podcast, is in the past and maybe some in a little bit in the present, that I can be a little overconfident in my abilities and underdeliver on execution, and humility sets in and go, maybe you want to refine that a little bit. Maybe you want to actually get some guidance, some coaching, have somebody show you how to do this a little bit better.
Hey, life will humble you, as they say. So let's give everybody a little bit of insight as to why the title of this podcast is "I Heard You When You Said."
You want me to tell this story?
Well, I mean, I'm sure our stories are similar, but yes, since you are the impetus, you are the inspiration for the title, because these words originated in your vernacular, I think it's only right.
The title of the podcast is I Heard You When You Said, is it really is kind of a cadence and kind of a cornerstone of our friendship and our relationship, is that, and really in the relationships that I have with everybody, especially from a coaching dynamic. But it was in conversations that Justin would say something and I'd just leave it. And I'm a processor, so he'd say something and I'd take it back and later bring it back up to him and be like, "Hey, I heard you when you said." And if we're gonna unravel this was like really early on, and we get our history of how we started, but we're both not really good at communicating what we want or getting our needs met. So when I kept bringing this back to him, I was like, "I heard you when you said," it was like, "Oh, she heard me when I said." And it's something I do with my clients as well. Like the things that people don't necessarily want to come out and tell you, I listen for, pay attention to, and then bring back to the table.
I will add, first of all, completely accurate. So your version is 99% my version. I will also add that my initial response to the repeated, I heard you when you said follow up in conversations after whatever, she heard, was, are you sure you heard that? Or are you trying to create that? Right? Are you layering in thing? Are you like making a story where there's not one? So that was my initial thought, is I heard you when you said, doesn't literally mean this is exactly what you said. It means I took what you said, I ran it through my machine of experience, understanding, and interpretation, and spit it back out in my own mind as this plus something else, right? Like what you actually said plus a little bit of extra that I think you're not telling me, or that you mean but you didn't say, something along those lines. And of course, me and Stacy love to mess with each other, so it's only natural that I'm like, is that really what I said? Or is that what you thought that I said? Or is that what you added to what I said? What does that actually even mean? And so as we develop the idea to like kick off a podcast, it's, oh, I know exactly what the title needs to be. I heard you when you said. And Stacy has we both have a lot of quips, little things that we say more often than not, phrases and things. And if you ask any of our clients, I'm sure they could pull it right out of their pocket and be like, yep. And this is just one we thought made the most sense.
Yeah, I like that. And I will say that our story is in 99% accuracy. I'm going to add to your 1% because there has been times when Justin has straight called me out and be like, is that what I actually said? Or is that what you heard? And I'm like, well, hold on. Let's play this back. And for that 1%, it might be 2 or 3% that I've gotten this a little bit incorrect. It's like, oh yeah, I had my feelings involved in all that he said. And what he actually said was this. And this is what I meant it mean. But 98% of the time, we're right in alignment with that.
So, this is the story of how we got here, essentially, right? We just told the short version of it there in that rendition of I heard you when you said, because that pretty much sums up in a large part of how we've interacted with each other to the point where we've become so close to be able to go into business together, coach people together, that type of stuff. And so while we will get into our origin story probably in another episode, because I'm sure that's just a lot of storytelling, right? That'll be a lot of what I would say, like sitting around the campfire, sharing a drink type of comedy involved in that story. But today, for the first episode, as is natural for both of us, is to deliver something valuable other than the value you might get from laughing at our story, right? So as I'm listening to other podcasts, I like to frequent Jocko podcast. If you know who Jocko Willink is, I also frequent the Chasing Excellence podcast with Ben Bergeron. I frequent Tim Ferriss's podcast every now and then, right? So obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you might listen to other podcasts. So going through these different podcasts that we listen to, and I hear one on the Jocko podcast that is talking about essentially how to form habits and why people fall off what they originally intended to do at the beginning of the year. And as we know, and I don't know when exactly this podcast will come out, but right now it is January the 19th, 2024, and the national average for how long people last on a New Year's resolution is about 2 weeks, maybe 15 days. So we're just past that point. We're like, almost a week past that point. But I thought it would be pertinent as people start to reattempt, and maybe it's like after Valentine's Day, maybe it's after the Super Bowl, maybe it's whatever it is, that they listen to this podcast and go, okay, maybe I didn't know that before, or I knew that, but I didn't put enough attention to it. And it helps them get a little bit farther down the road. So that's the intention as we start to have a little bit of a step-by-step system. What do you think about the whole starting something, falling off? Like, what's your experience there?
First of all, this is what I love about how we're starting this podcast. It's timeless. And if we do our jobs well in bringing this to you, that everything we say shouldn't have an end date on it. It doesn't need to be January 18th and after the Super Bowl or after Valentine's Day, like wherever you find us in your life and you're listening to this, that you can start something. And I find a lot of people really focus on stopping things. And that's not how the brain works. The brain can't stop something. It just can start something new. And then you continually choose that something new until that previous thing just becomes a little bit more quiet. So I love that we're starting this way, because at any time, at any place, a year from now, 3 years from now, episode 1 has the impact we intend it to for whoever at whatever part of their life that they're in, whatever part of their fitness journey they're in, whatever part of their health journey, wherever part of your relationship with us, whether you've known us for the last, 2 years, or this is the first time you're hearing us. This is the foundation of how we do stuff.
Yeah. And again, we're not perfect at any of this, but we do recognize patterns because we coach people for a living. And so the behavior change model, and whether you want to read it in Atomic Habits, which is a great book by James Clear, or if you want to go research it online, or you want to take a whole class over behavior change, whatever resource you want to get into after you hear this, I encourage you to, but all of it will essentially be the same fundamental steps with different flavors at each step. And so we're going to speak about it in the way that we interpret it and the way that we understand it to be true for us and for our clients. And then you can take that and develop it into your own. So there's 4 steps essentially that I've boiled this down to in my mind of how to develop a behavior into a habit and how to take action on that habit consistently. And I like things to rhyme or nice acronyms. You'll notice this about me and Stacy. We have a lot of like, yeah, let's make everything start with a P. Let's make everything start with an R, right? Let's make everything rhyme. So it comes down to tack it, stack it, attack it, and track it. Tack it, stack it, attack it, track it. Okay? So if you don't remember anything else in this podcast, at least put that into your notes and define it as you go along listening. So go ahead.
Do you want to know what it reminds me of?
What does it remind you of?
Have you ever played that game Bop It?
It actually does it. That's a good point. Pull it. Dun, 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 dun. Spin it. Dun, 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 dun. Bop it.
Okay. And so as you're explaining this again, I get this visual and really want to give this back to people of how challenging what we're asking you to do is you start to do the Bop It version of behavior. That at first you're like, okay, I'm going to be slow, like twist it, track it, stack it, spin it. And at first when it's slow and new, you're like, okay, I got this. And then all of a sudden, like the Bop It gets possessed or your life gets really crazy and you're like, I'm gonna throw this whole thing. So no, like if that visualization gives you anything, is you get this track it, stack it, attack it. Which one did I miss?
Tack it.
Tack it.
The first thing.
If you need to go buy yourself a Bop It just to be your reinforcement of when this gets a little bit challenging, do it. Because it'll just be another visual representation of, we understand that we present this simplistically. Anything we ask you that's simple actually isn't easy. And there was no way for me not to be like, oh yeah, Bop It. Let's go.
I love that. The Bop It version of behavior change. That's probably what the title of this podcast is going to be at this point. So the Bop It version of behavior change.
I love it.
Bop the behavior. um, so the the funny part about what Stacy is saying in my mind is really what it's like is you're sitting here trying to do things one at a time, bop it, pull it, spin it, twist it, and you're doing it slow. But in reality, what actually in that analogy would be like what actually happens is somebody calls your name in the other room and you just leave the bop it and you just go into the other room. That's what most people, that's what happens to most people, including us, is life happens, lizard brain happens, and I'll get into lizard brain here in a minute. And where'd the habit go? All my intention left me, right? The bop it just disappeared, right? I threw the bop it in the trash. So, that's essentially what people do 2 weeks into the new year is they throw the bop it away because, the bop it's not fun anymore. They pulled and twisted to their heart's content or till they got frustrated and they threw it in the trash. And I know exactly what you're thinking, Stacy. I know exactly what you're thinking. And we're going to keep this to bop it content. Okay. For right now, episode 1, we're going to keep it to bop it content. Okay. And if you can't see Stacy right now, if you're not watching, a video version of this, then, Stacy's hysterically laughing. She's not on a Stairmaster. She's laughing. That's why she can't breathe. Okay. So we'll start. Bring it back. We'll start with the first one. Tack it. And tack it to me, again, this is just my lingo, means solidify, write it down, pin it, put a pin in it, get specific. Tack it down. That's what that means. Get specific with it. And in this step, you're literally writing it down. And this goes into the whole SMART goals thing, right? SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, something along those lines. And again, go look up what SMART goals. We're not here to dive into that, but the point of tack it is you can't just have an idea in your mind and then go start pursuing that thing. I mean, you actually can, but you're probably not going to get very far because you're going to forget. It's not specific enough. So when things get hard, the motive leaves you. So all of those things to say, write it down and be as specific as you can right now. You may not know exactly, but for example, don't just say, I want to lose weight this year. How much weight do you want to lose? In what amount of time is a realistic timeline for you to lose that in? Based on where you're at, what do you need to do to get to that goal? Because remember, a goal is just an overarching objective of sorts. But underneath that, there's going to be smaller objectives, smaller missions for you to go on. Right. So it's like if anybody plays video games, the goal is the boss, right? And so you have to defeat all these other little, in between characters to get to the boss. And when you write it down, it starts to become more clear of an idea of, first of all, do you even want to do it? Or is it just something that you think you should do? Other people are doing this, so you're going to do this too, right? Or is it something that actually creates a little bit of focus or concern or whatever it is for you, and so you actually want to break it down a little bit more step by step? That's tack it. That's get specific. That's get granular with it and line it out for yourself. How do you do that, Stacy?
I do it exactly like you described, and I look at what is the thing, and I try to give it a timeline, right? So if I'm actually doing this with a group of people right now in a little bit of a cohort, that what do you want for the next 90 days? What do you want for a year? What do you want for 3 years? And then it's lifetime. And then I actually work backwards that if this is lifetime, well, what can I do in the next 90 days that brings me a little bit closer to that? And I get really granular on, okay, then in the next 90 days, if these are the 5 things as I work this back that are my goals, what is that one thing? What is that one thing that is the game changer? The thing that makes all the other pieces work together. And I get granular on that one thing. Okay, then this is the action step I need to take. And this is the action step, not for all 5, just the one that changes the game. And it's, for me, it's like when you say tack it, I think of the anchor, the thing that I'm so committed to that wave after wave, I am unmoved. It doesn't matter what comes up, what wants my attention. that this is the thing that is immovable because it means that much to me. And so I think if we take it a step back, if we're going to go with, hey, tack it, you have to go back and go, what is the thing that is so important to you that you want to anchor into either into the cement or you want to hammer into the wall?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're literally going to make the mark of something, because you won't consistently follow the other 3 steps after tack it if it's not so compelling that you're going to anchor to it. And so I just get really specific. What is it that I want? Do I really want it? Am I willing to put forth the effort to get it? What's in my control? What's not in my control? And what action steps do I take to get it? And if the answer is yes, I'm like, let's go. Let's go.
Absolutely. And I think that there can be different flavors of this over time, but as long as the original intent is still there, then that's the thing that you're looking for. And I like what you said there. Is the question that I ask myself is, okay, let's say you do have a list of 5 goals, right? 5 overarching things that you want to accomplish throughout your life, maybe not even this year, right? And as you increase the timeline and everything, what one of these things, and this could be big goals or this could be just this year goals, it doesn't matter, whatever your list consists of, which one of these things makes everything else easier or irrelevant? That's the question that I ask myself, right? What one of these things makes everything else easier or irrelevant? And you're probably going to get some type of answer that's going to lead you to the next step. And so when Stacy says, hey, what's important? What she's really saying is, if we look at the word motivation, the motive, right? The motive, which is the core piece of that word, the motive is the reason why you're doing it. So you really need to understand your motive. Why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to learn how to play the guitar or learn how to play the piano and sing? Why do you want to save up enough money to put a down payment on a house? Why do you want to do these things? And you can do the whole 5 whys exercise. You can really dig down deep. And sometimes you're not going to get this big existential thing. That's what because I don't think I've ever had a real big existential thing. Like the most I can think of right now is my son. I do a lot of things for the benefit of my family and so that I can raise my son as the man that I want to be, so that I can show him what that looks like. The example. So that if I had an existential reason, that's it. But I'm not saying, and we're not saying, you have to have this big, dig it down deep to the core of who you are reason. No, you may want to lose 30 pounds because you're going to be able to work, play, sleep, feel, look better at the end of the day. And if you can attach a little bit of purpose to that, then when things get hard and you're like, I don't want to cook any more chicken, I don't want to go to bed at 9 o'clock, then you're like, well, why was I doing this in the first place? Oh yeah, that's right, because I'm chasing this feeling. And then you get back on the path. And so when we say tack it, yes, I mean, get specific about what you want to do, but also get specific about why you want to do that. What is your purpose behind doing that? And it doesn't have to be this existential thing. Yes, Stacy.
I want to add to that, because what you said, I do not want people to miss. It's the feeling that you're chasing. When you look at the why, it's not the 30 pounds or the 40 pounds. Because I could be like, how often do you think about actually losing weight? How often do you think about your pants not fitting? And for you to chase something, it's actually the feeling you're chasing, not the outcome. And if you don't really get in touch with what that feeling is, you will chase outcome after outcome, and it will never satisfy. And you've probably been there. Like if you're listening to this, you're like, oh my gosh, like that just hit me in my soul. And I probably should have put a warning on that. I'm sorry. You're going to find that I do that a lot. Sorry, not sorry. But I didn't want people to miss that, because you said it so quickly, because it's so part of our natural conversation and vernacular, that it's really a feeling that people are chasing: security, safety, confidence, love. And so it's not existential. It's actually basic human needs. And you can go look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs for that. Carry on, Justin.
Man, y'all got a lot of extracurricular to do after this podcast, but I love it because it keeps you learning. So that's tack it. And the reason we spent the most time is because that first layer, that first foundational step again, these are not like it's not necessarily in order, but these are the things that encompass it. this thing is really the first thing because you don't have anything else to work with. You don't have any material to work with for the rest of the steps. So you really need to get this as right as you believe you can. Number two, stack it. So stack it to me just means make it easier, right? Remove the friction to do the thing that you want to do and increase the friction to do the things that you don't want to do. That's essentially what it is. If you read Atomic Habits, James Clear makes this very, very clear. So there's a better illustration there, but stack it just means habit stack. It just means if you want to learn if you want to get better at flossing your teeth, well, then it's better to just set your floss out by your toothbrush because you're already going to go to the sink to brush your teeth. So there's a pretty high chance you're going to pick up the floss because it's there, it's by your toothbrush, you're already at the sink, right? There's you've lowered the friction of that. But if it's in your drawer and you don't even know what the floss looks like and it's behind the hairbrush, that you're increasing the friction of you actually doing that thing because you're like, I mean, as stupid as it sounds, you're like, you know where it is, right? But you're going to put the toothbrush down and go lay in bed. And why I'm telling you that is because I literally did the exact same thing until I put the floss literally in the same cup that my toothbrush sits in. So that's what I'm talking about by removing friction and stacking it. And I just use the word stack because it rhymes with everything else, obviously. But it's also habit stacking is just a method of making things easier. I will give you an example now of making things harder that are distractions, right? So for example, how do you make it to where you don't reach for the cookies? Well, you just don't even buy the cookies, right? Because then you got to get in your car. You got to go to this. Like that's a lot of friction to go get a cookie, right? For me, it's the time suck that is the algorithm of social media, right? Because that algorithm, boy, it'll put you in that stranglehold, son, right? It knows what you like and it's just going to keep feeding it. It's going to keep feeding that lizard brain. It's like, yeah, you like this, don't you, son? Uh-huh. Keep scrolling, keep liking, keep sending Stacy that jujitsu reel. Yeah, buddy, you like this shit, don't you? 30 minutes later, you're in another dimension and you don't even know what happened, right? So to make that harder for me, guess what I did? I moved my Instagram app to the second page of my phone. When I open my phone, I don't even see it. I can't see a notification from it. I can't see anything. I have to work. I know it sounds crazy, but 1-2 clicks is harder than that red dot that the technology companies understand that red gets you to take action. That red dot is getting you to click on that icon, especially if you have it in your little main icons at the bottom, right? For you iPhone people, because that's the only people we're talking to here because we don't associate with people who have Androids. But the people at the golly, I thought I was going to be able to do that one clean. The apps at the bottom, please, please, please do not put social media on the bottom. Okay? Put the things that you need to use, but not the things that you enjoy using and that distract you. So that's the thing. That's what I'm talking about, putting friction in place for things that pull you off the path and removing friction from the things that you actually want to do.
I like that. I'm going to give an example of Justin and I don't help each other's algorithms. And the algorithms basically know that we're one. And so we send each other like, I was going to send that to you first. But I'm not removing him out of my life. So it's fine. We're here. But going back to making things easier, I have a client who really struggled with drinking her water, like ADHD client, and really struggled with water. So what I did in making it easier for her, I had her put a water bottle everywhere that she already engaged with water. So I had her have a water bottle at her kitchen sink. She had a water bottle in her bathroom. She had a water bottle, like wherever there was water that she was going to wash her hands or go do something, there was water already there for her as a reminder to drink water. Oh, I'm going to pair water with water because that makes sense. It was something that she was already doing. And this huge obstacle she had with drinking just really almost any water was like, oh, here's water. And it was so easy that we reduced all the friction of having to remember something, because that's really the challenge, right? Especially when you're trying to do something new, you don't have the neural pathways to be like, oh, this is normal for me. It's not normal. And that's why it's challenging. Your brain at every opportunity wants to conserve energy. So after you've tacked it and you go to stack it, what are you already doing? And in Atomic Habits, James talks about this idea if you wanted to start doing push-ups. well, then you brush your teeth and do 10 push-ups. And I actually have a friend who did this long before I was into this. And I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And she wanted to do 100 push-ups. That was her goal, to be able to do 100 push-ups. And so every day when she brushed her teeth, she would do push-ups, and she actually reached her goal. Now, what's really funny is she still does it, even though she reached a goal, because now those two things are tied together. And so actually, before we move to the next one, I want to take this opposite. I have another client who is a businessman, professional, highly successful. And I want him to walk. I want him to walk so he can regulate his nervous system. I want him to get fresh air. I want him to get alone, get outside, and kind of detach from everything. And I was actually on a call with him yesterday. He's like, so can I get a pad and walk at my desk? No, you can't do that. Well, why? It's walking. Because I don't want to pair a restorative stimulus with your work environment. If I pair these two things together in your brain, I can't unpair them. That means when you go for a walk somewhere else, you're going to be thinking about work. So I can't have you stack these two things together. So as you move to the stack portion, it actually takes a little bit of thought to go, okay, brushing my teeth and push-ups? Great, can do that. Brushing my teeth and flossing? Great, do that. Taking a crap and scrolling on my phone? Probably two things you don't want to pair together, because what'll happen is that every time you go to the bathroom, you're gonna be like, where's my phone? And you, not that you won't be able to go to the bathroom when out your phone, but you'll feel like I'm missing something. Like, where's my phone?
You might not. That algorithm might put you in that chokehold, boy. You better watch out for it. That algorithm will get your ass. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So just to add some really context of, if you're looking for practical things of where to stack, maybe water's a thing for you. Okay, put water with water. Easy, done.
So, and actually, I will make a caveat to that previous statement. This is something we will come back to in likely in every single podcast that we do. You said easy done, simple done, not easy, not easy. Because it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to make it hard. The reason we're saying stack it is to make it easier. Yes. So what Stacy meant is, yes, we're trying to remove the friction to make it easy. But by nature, if you don't already do it, then it is not easy for you. I don't think you would describe it as easy. In theory, it's easy. In practice, it's a little bit more challenging. Even if you've removed as much friction as you can, you still have to do the thing, which leads us into attack it. Simple, not easy. You don't have to make everything as hard as it has to be, but you do have to do the thing. And I know this sounds like we're gonna beat this horse to death, but execute. Attack it. Do it now. Do it now. And the reason why is because you have a lizard brain, and I have a lizard brain, and Stacy has a lizard brain. Mm-hmm. We all have a lizard brain. Guess what? It tells us when we're hungry. It tells us when we're thirsty. It tells us when we're tired. The lizard brain is there to keep you alive. The lizard brain is part of your base software. Okay? So guess what it does? It gives zero shits about how much water you're drinking. It cares 0% about how much money you're saving because you have a goal there. It cares 0% how many steps you take in a day, and it cares 0% if you got your workout in. None of that. Cares about none of that. So what's it going to do? Every time there's a little bit of space, it's going to go, ooh, a cookie. Ooh, social media. Look over there. I'm tired. Man, this bed's sure warm this morning, isn't it? Man, you sure are hungry right now, aren't you? Right? Guess what happens guess what happens when you get mad? You like to eat sweet stuff, right? Remember, don't forget that. You grew up like that, right? Whenever you got a little upset, mommy just came and gave you a cookie. Yeah, she pacified you. So your brain's going to pacify you. That's the lizard brain, and it's hungry, right? It's always hungry. So if you feed that lizard brain, guess what happens? That lizard brain keeps getting louder, and it gets harder to subvert. So when we say attack it, there's a window of time with every action that you have, in which once that window closes, it is very, very difficult for you to develop the attitude and the momentum to go and do that thing. I was talking about this on right before we hit record, was jiu-jitsu. I live 20 minutes away from the gym. That's not including the 5 minutes it takes for me to get my gi on. And for those who don't do jiu-jitsu, that's the white pajamas. Okay. So in essence, I need about a half an hour to make that drive to get prepared and be ready to engage in class. If I don't pack my bag early, remove the friction, go to a coffee shop that day for work to get closer so I don't have to drive as far, removing the friction, and set it as a reminder in my calendar, another way to remove the friction or help lower the friction, there's a very low chance that I'm actually going to go and consistently do that like I want to. Remember, I'm already spending the money on this gym membership, so that's already a little bit of a motive there, but I actually want to get better at the practice too. Okay. All that stuff, I've removed all that friction. Guess what? I still skip the gym sometimes. I still skip going to jiu-jitsu sometimes, right? Because I didn't attack it. There's a window. And so we start to, as soon as you wait, you would negotiate with yourself. As soon as you wait, right? Oh, I'm kind of doing this thing right now. Like I got to text this client back. So I'm just going to send this email. It only take me like 5 minutes. And then it's 10 minutes. And I'm like, well, if I start to get my bag together now, I'm going to be like 5 minutes late by the time I get my gi on, and then I'm not going to be warmed up. And so, you know what? I'm not even going to go today. Right? I missed my window. The window's closing, and you know this too. It's closing, it's closing, it's closing. Missed it. Right? Sure, you'll probably get a chance the next day or the next opportunity, whatever the little habit that you want to, the action you want to take. But you have to attack the window quickly. And what Stacy is enjoying that I say recently is speed, surprise, and violence of action. This is actually in a warfighting manual from the Marine Corps. But when I think I have to psych myself up. I don't know about y'all, but I have to psych myself up to go do stuff that I actually want to do inherently, but my body does not want to make that. So I do have to have violence of action. I have to literally run and go and do this thing. Right? So to not let my window close, I have to attack it. Nope. No more email. I don't care how important it is. No more emails, no more text messages, none of that shit. Grab your keys, get in your truck, go to the gym. Right? So you have to execute, and lowering the friction helps, but it does not do it for you. You're not just going to slide into the gym. Right? Execute. Stacy, how do you think about this?
I want to give them the other side of this coin. I live a 3-minute walk from jiu-jitsu. And I've been
tricky. That's tricky, isn't it? I've got time.
I also, my jiu-jitsu gym and my regular gym are the same distance apart. They're literally like 30 seconds apart. And jiu-jitsu is harder for me than going to train. And so I will trade off going to lift than going to jiu-jitsu because I'm not as good at jiu-jitsu. So where Justin has distance, I have skill set and humility that I'm like, I'm about to get my ass handed to me. I made my hair curly today. Like if I go to jiu-jitsu today, like I'm gonna have to shower and then I'm gonna have to do this curl training. And I find myself doing the same thing but differently. And if I just go, like stop talking, just go, then I can make myself go. And I don't have a good reason. Like it could be a tornado and I could still get to jiu-jitsu. Like I don't have to even get in a car. It would take me longer to drive there than it would to walk there. But I want to get back to our core motivation. And kind of, I think this is helpful because when you are trying to do this, doing it alone is really challenging. Now, when Justin and I are together, that we're in the same location, which we will be more soon, there's, I think, only one time in all the times we've been in the same place at the same time that we've been like, let's not do jiu-jitsu today. We have on purpose planned things to do together so we could roll together. And in all those times we've been together, knowing like, hey, this takes a lot of effort to do this, when you have someone else alongside of you or who knows what your tacket is, what your stack it is, like it makes it easier to be aggressive in doing it, even if you just have somebody ask you about it. Or you know that you're going to meet someone there. Like if Justin knew that I was at his gym, he'd be like, "Oh, Stacy's expecting me. I'm going to show up today. I'm going to show up today. I'm not going to not come because I know Stacy showed up." So if you're looking for something like to help you get there, to be aggressive in making it stick, you might need to, get some reinforcements. You might need another human to be like, "Hey, could you ask me about this?" And somebody just recently asked me this about one of my goals. Like, how do I help you be accountable to this? Well, I try not to lie to myself, but I really couldn't tell them how to help me be accountable to something. I'm like, I guess just ask me. Cause I'm not the person who needs to be like, "Did you?" or go. I'm like, I hold myself to a higher standard than anybody else possibly could, which is part of the challenges that I'm overcoming. So I'm like, just ask me about it. So if you're being aggressive about it and you want to be more aggressive and consistent, ask somebody to ask you about it. And you might have some more consistency there. But you will lose the window of opportunity. If you're sitting here listening to this right now and you're like, "Oh, I wonder if I should ask this person." Yes. Whatever the thought that came to your mind as I said this, and you're listening to Justin and I talk about this, and you're like, "Oh, I'm not going to." Whatever that thing is that you were afraid of doing or enlisting the support of, do that right now. That is the thing. That is your homework, your assignment. Do not hesitate. Go do that right now.
Speed, surprise, violence of action, baby. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. We'll come back to that one in a future episode, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine that we ever won't.
Sometimes my thoughts might be a little aggressive for some people's taste, and that's okay with me. That's why we have two people on this podcast, because Stacy's going to sometimes mellow it out, but she might also ratchet up the aggressiveness. Okay. So you gotta, it's a dynamic. It's a fluidity here. So anyway, that's why you're listening in the first place. So tack it, stack it, attack it, lastly, track it. And this one is a little bit more mechanical in nature. It's a little bit more nuts and bolts. And this is why it's the last thing that I put on this list, because I do think it's important. But if you didn't do this and you just did the others, you would still make progress. Okay. Track it is both a way to measure your progress so that you can see how many times you've executed, so that you can remind yourself why you're doing it in the first place, right? Or how good you actually are, how much better you're becoming. Because I don't think a lot of people think they're good at things, but if you track it, you can see how much less bad you are. And I know that sounds funny, but a lot of things in life you have to track. Oh, I'm way less bad at that than I was, right? I'm way less bad at that than I was. Okay. So tracking it is both a way to measure the progress in terms of consistency, because that's the progress that we're looking for right now. And it's also a way to motivate yourself, right? And remind yourself, why did I start doing this in the first place? Because when it comes to attacking something, sometimes you just got to attack it because that's what you told yourself you're going to do and you really don't feel like doing it. But sometimes you're going to be able to look at if you're tracking it, you're going to be able to look at that thing and go, "Oh yeah, that's right. My strategic goal is to buy a house. So today I'm going to track that I saved $5 by not going to Starbucks." Because guess what? That lizard brain's going to be like, "It's just a coffee. It's just a coffee. What's $5 in the grand scheme of a down payment for? What's $5, dude?" And that's where you start to slide. So tracking it gives you that concrete thing to look at and wrap your hands around and go, "Oh yeah, that's right. My strategic vision is this." And you may even have a planner or a way that you keep up with the tracking that you actually write down the strategic goal while you're doing the tactical behaviors that you're actually tracking. You're not tracking your weight. If it's a weight loss goal, you're tracking how many times did I train. You're tracking my steps. You're tracking my calories, right? You're tracking the things that lead to the thing, not the actual thing itself. So remember, to remind yourself of what the strategic overall vision for the thing is. Sometimes a lot of times that tracking helps with that. And it doesn't have to be super fancy. Let me show you something right here. If you're not watching this, I'm holding up a small paper version of a 2024 calendar. Just it's got every month of the year on both sides. Okay. And what this is a very simplistic way for me to track how many days I picked up the guitar. Right now in January, the goal is just to pick up the guitar as many days in a row as I can. Okay. Or as many days as I can. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a row. But picking it up, I have no standard. I don't have to practice for 10 minutes minimum. Usually I do, but I don't have to. I just have to pick it up and I have to strum. That's the only thing. I have to put my fingers on the chords. That's all I have to do. Okay, so I circle a day when I do that. So I can look here and see, wow, that's a lot of circles. I've done pretty good this month. Let me see what I can do next month. And maybe the standard is changed next month. Maybe it is 10 minutes. Maybe maybe eventually I have to play one song before I can put the guitar down. Right. The standards will change. But I have 2 rules. Pick the guitar up daily and don't miss more than 2 days in a row. Okay? So those are my 2 rules for this habit right now. But I keep this right here on my desk because I'm sitting at my desk most of the day. And I look at it and I go, oh, yep, hadn't circled today. I better pick it up. Right? Sometimes it's at 9 o'clock at night. Sometimes it's right after I eat lunch. So what I'm telling you is there can be fluidity to the way that you track it and the standard that you hold for what you actually track, because you're going to get better over time if you just start to track it now. Hopefully that creates a little bit more urgency to actually use a system to track your behavior.
I think that comes back to stackable and what reinforces continuing a behavior. I was on the phone with Justin's wife the other morning, and Paige, we love Paige, and she's like,
as she is every weekday morning.
I actually talked to Paige more than I talked to Justin.
Talk about a habit stack. Every time I call Paige, I'm going to go do this.
So in talking to Paige, she said, Stacy, do you know how you can waste $10,000? And I'm like, no. And she's like, $27 or $29 a day in discretionary spending. If you just spend 27, I can't remember if it's $27 or $29 of discretionary, just bullshit spending a day, you've lost $10,000 in a year. And I went, damn, okay, Paige, like, thanks for like wrecking my day. And then
27.
Okay. So I said, okay, because I kind of made this agreement that I wasn't going to buy any Starbucks this year, that unless it was somebody else bought it for me or I had a gift card for it, that I wasn't going to buy Starbucks. We have a big move as a family this year. And so that comes with costs and all of the things. I was like, okay, I can do this. And my husband bought me an espresso for Christmas. So I'm like, oh, got the coffee, got the foam. I actually don't need this. And I said, so you know what I'm going to do, Paige? I'm actually going to put that $27 a day away. So I don't do it daily because I just find that annoying. So I take whatever the $189 a week, like on Friday. So today's Friday. So I went to go do it this morning, is move that $189 to savings every Friday to, instead of spending, I don't go anywhere. So I don't think I really spend $27 a day. But the act of every Friday, I'm moving $189 into a separate account. So over the course of a year, there's 10 grand that I wasn't intentionally, I didn't have a 10 grand goal. I just didn't want to lose something. I wanted to pay attention to, I want to be more intentional about this. And Starbucks probably is my biggest luxury because I don't really I don't go out to eat. I don't really do anything else.
That's a good way. That's a good way to say vice, but yes, you're right. Luxury.
Okay, it is a vice, and I will tell you because it really made me go on the days, kind of like you brought up the cookie, is that I get the same freaking drink every time. I get a grande ice shake and espresso. You know why I get a grande ice shake and espresso? Because I love the feeling, which goes back all the way to the beginning. I love the feeling of the cold cup in my hand and the first sip of foam as it touches my lips. Don't you offer me a straw. I don't care about the turtles. Like, I want to feel that feeling of that foam and that first sip, like hitting my lips. And so I notice, when do I go to Starbucks? Oh, I'm having a bad day. I need an ice shake and espresso. Okay. This isn't ruining my physique, not my macros, is 100 freaking calories. But how much money did me wanting to feel better and not actually deal with an emotion cost me last year? I'm working on my taxes. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But it's that emotional vice of like, if I wasn't tracking it or being intentional, I'm going to restrict here because I want something there, I wouldn't even see the progress. Well, okay, 3 weeks in, that's a significant amount. What, 189 times three? What is that?
Well,
That's
it's
it.
almost $600.
Yeah. I mean, it's not nothing, but 5 months from now, oh, that's something. That's something.
That's something. It's a lot of something.
5 months from now. So when you're looking at tracking, it's important to do it, but don't be so dogmatic about it. It's like Justin going, I don't know how much, I just need to touch it and it's enough. And when you reinforce that behavior of just doing it consistently, it actually makes you want it more because there's no shame involved. Like if Justin was like, well, damn, been 3 days. Screw this. I'm not touching the guitar again. What would be the point? Pick it back up on day 3 should that happen. But no, I thought it was a really good conversation. I love this conversation. I love that we got to do this today.
Yeah, this is super fun. One that I'll add to that, and this is for you people who, God, we love you. We love you. You type A people, which we can kind of consider ourselves in that category to some degree, but you like to go hard. Like when you do something, there ain't no in between. It ain't no, I can't just pick it up, right? Because that's not good enough. I got to play for an hour, right? I got to drink all the water. Okay. Guess why you don't stick to what you said you were going to do is because you go too hard in the beginning. Okay. You sprint the first 400 meters of a marathon and then you're dog tired and you quit, right? So how do you do this? You actually have to think in the opposite direction and go, I have to, my action is to do less in this particular area. So a story that I have that James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, told on a podcast one time was he knew of a guy who was trying to get in the habit of going to the gym and training. So he would actually drive to the gym, but he couldn't stay more than 10 minutes. He couldn't stay at the gym more than 10 minutes. Because if he stayed at the gym more than 10 minutes, there was a less likelihood that he would actually want to come back to the gym the next day because he would get tired of it quicker. Instead of going and saying, I'm just going to see how long I stay. If your personality, if your bias is one of, if I do it, I'm going to want to do it all. I can't just I can't just have one Oreo. I got to have a whole sleeve, right? If you are that person and you're trying to do a beneficial behavior, then you may need to be self-limiting on purpose because you're trying to get this nice, smooth arc over time, not this hockey stick effect in which you drop back down in the same amount of time that it took you to get up there, right? Easy come, easy go type of thing. So you may have to go, you know what? I would love to walk 10,000 steps today. I'd love to freaking smash it. I'm going to purposefully only go for 10 minutes of a walk today. I'm going to stop at 10 minutes because tomorrow that's going to keep me a little bit hungry. I'm going to come back for another 10 minutes tomorrow, and you can grow that over time. So this is a little bit of a caveat to the people who are just so averse to wanting to do the thing, just pick it up. That's me. I'm not so averse to wanting to do the guitar, but what I'm saying is for me right now, I don't have to beat myself back from wanting to play the guitar too much. It's okay to want to sprint every once in a while, but what happens is when you sprint too much and you try to do that right off the bat, when you don't have a solid foundation of what it takes to do it consistently, you end up burning yourself out and then you drop it. And now the whole goal was to be consistent and you're not achieving the goal, right? So you have to purposely sometimes pull back on your desire to want to do it all right now. Last thing I said, like I said before, you have to fight the lizard brain because it's always hungry. So you got to decide, are you going to feed the lizard brain or what I call the lion brain? Okay. The lion brain is confident. The lion brain is purposeful. The lion brain has speed, surprise, and violence of action, right? Think about what a lion does. The lion is the king. The lion has control. Okay. So that's the lion brain. We want to feed that brain with intention, with writing your goal, that putting it as much as you marinate your brain in that goal and that thing that you want to do, put it everywhere. Put it on the background of your phone. You got to, because the lizard brain is going to take advantage of every single thing that you have to go and do because it's part of your daily life, right? I got to go pick up the kids. I might as well just swing by and get a coffee, right? I got to go do the laundry. I might as well just eat some dessert that's in the pantry, right? Like you have to do things. And so your lizard brain is going to take advantage of that, but you have to put things in front of you that feed the lion brain as much as the lizard brain is going to get fed just through your acts of daily life. So anyway, that is all I got to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say.
I've got nothing to add. I've got nothing. I'm so thankful we got to do this today. I'm really excited that we get to do this together and the impact that we want it to have in people's lives.
I love it. I love it. So with that, if you want to talk to me and Stacy, if you want to find out more about what we do together, because we do actually coach people together in their health and fitness goals and other things that they want to see happen. But if you want to know more about that, the best way for you to do that right now, if you're listening to this, is to reach out to us on social media. And I am at Farmer to Fitter. That's T-O, not the number 2, but T-O. So Farmer T-O Fitter. That's my life story. I came from an agriculture background. Now I'm in the fitness industry. We'll get to that at a future date, I'm sure. And Stacy is at what?
Stacy J. Hansen, STACEY J HANSEN, because that's exactly who I am. It's just me.
100%. 100%. What you see is what you get. I couldn't remember if there was a J, if there was a letter in there or not, but that's what it is. Yep, Stacy J.
Yeah, when you call me by my middle name, I know I'm in trouble.
That's the best way to reach out to us. If you like what you hear, let us know. Let us know what you learned. If you laughed, that's amazing. And we'll catch y'all next time.